Neo, Neo, Neo. You know, I used to be a bull on Neo. Made over $100,000 on Neo. Took my money, got into other stuff. I'm just not interested in it anymore, especially after I saw the technical analysis. Riding the neckline, MACD's looking sketchy. RSI broke through the support. It has held in this channel for some time now, so it's really far-fetched for it to do anything other than that. It's just a little over halfway. It's got a lot more to go. Just from the technicals, guys, it's going to about 240, and we can see as low as, $1.19. If we do some drawings, it's probably a double bottom. Let's get the doodle. So, boom, boom, boom. That's what I'm expecting. You got the head and shoulders just primed and ready on the neckline. MACD, RSI don't look good. And we got all this news, guys. Like, I'm a technical trader, but obviously you got to look at the fundamentals. The market's supposed to be efficient in these patterns. Everything should be priced in. But let's look further. Neo needs to raise more cash to survive, January 21st. Neo is starving for cash, burning millions and millions of dollars, just down to 274 million and burning through 228. Will 150 million help? They already burnt through that. They just got another 100 million recently. Honestly, it's really because they got to build all these Neo houses. They only got 20 of these Neo houses. 22 of them. And guess how much these Neo spaces cost? They got 57 right now. And they want 200. 150 million. Less than $1 million. So you know that shit is like $950,000. So they got to spend 200 million roughly to get here. If they keep this route, they're going to continue to burn cash. And Wall Street doesn't like that. All the talk, that they're on the brink of bankruptcy is from burning cash and dumping money back into the business to create these houses and the space for branding reasons. Very understandable from a business standpoint. You want to build that great brand, and they have. They've got a lot of cool things like apps, stores, Neo houses, Neo spaces to educate people. It's just a cool thing to have. You get a nice place to meet up your friends. You got a place to get some coffee, hang out with your friends again, and then you got your own little library where you can run business, and it's got a cool design inside. But is this going to help? I really don't think so, especially with the coronavirus outbreak. It's just not looking good as far as operations go. These guys are not building. They are not doing anything. There is a huge disruption in China. I know it's not every city, but city to city, they do business, all right? Supplies, deliveries, communication, importing, exporting in a domestic area. It is all affected, guys. Trust me. It's affecting markets in the United States. Hello, China, all of Asia, they deliver massive amounts of containers. Yeah. Big boxes full of GDP, basically. This stuff needs to be bought and sold. It needs to be used. And if everything is slowing down, if the operations are slowing down as far as construction on Neo houses and Neo spaces, it's not in the bull's favor. It is a bearish sentiment. Coronavirus worries will undercut the Neo stock recovery. Despite the recent good news, investors should still be cautious. Neo stock has a history of extreme volatility. That's true. And I think the next few months could see much more pressure on the downside. The main reason, well, yes, it's the coronavirus from China. It really does look like Wall Street has not factored in the potential adverse impact on Neo stock. The reason I emphasize so hard on this is, it ran up since December. Hello? The virus has been going on since December. When I was in it and I made that 100 grand, I was like, yo, something's really up, man. This virus isn't doing anything. Yeah, guess what when it does get factored in, guys? 2.4, 1.19, it's on the way. And it's not factored in. You can see the sentiment on stock tweets. Literally, the bulls ignore the virus. I'm over here. I used to be a bull. I got 100 racks profit from this. I do the research, guys. This virus, okay, look, Neo isn't Tesla, guys. Neo's in China. Tesla is an American business. China is directly affected by this virus, and it is not factored in whatsoever. People just ignore it. When Trump has some bad news, when he's going to get impeached, the market tanks and it just goes right back up because people ignore it. That's the consensus. I guess the millennials, they're just like laid back and they don't give a shit. But when things happen, it just keeps going up. But what happens when it does get factored in? What happens when the coronavirus gets super bad? What happens when Tesla gets their factory in working order and pushes new good numbers, taking market share? Guess what's going to happen to the price? Lots of competition. This is a good article published February 10th. Neo's struggles continue as coronavirus outbreak drags down sales. Yes, duh. And they said, hey, it wasn't that bad, bro. It wasn't that bad. Well, what about the next month and the month after that? Okay. I'm not being, I want them to recover. I'm about to show you guys a horrific YouTube video, guys. There is an epidemic happening and I'm scared. One of these viruses can go to a different country with horrible healthcare. It's game over. It's just the whole country's screwed. It could happen. All right. So let's look at these numbers. Just sold 1598. Okay, down 11.5% from January 2019. Guess what they were selling in 2019? Just one vehicle. This is not bullish, guys. They're selling two vehicles now, all right? That's why their numbers have been good recently for the past 5 months. And from a probability standpoint, that streak has to end, all right? It could keep going. I want to bet it's going to end because of the coronavirus, and it kind of has. All right, so here's that 100 million that we were talking about. Last year, they got 200 million. They're burning 200 million per month. They got $200 million worth of Neospaces they got to build so they can sell more cars, so they can pay back this debt. It is a shit show. Shit is about to hit the fan. And we can see directly what's happening with this graph. This was when deliveries were the best. Trying to cut the subsidy really screwed everything up. Battery recall, 5,000 recalls. No one wants to buy an ES8 anymore. All right, they did a sale, and then now no one's buying it. 105 in January. Oh my God, it's not good. No one wants the ES8 anymore. Well, I guess it's good that they don't have a factory that's just dedicated to building the ES8. But here's the outbreak. Huge difference in numbers. But yeah, guys, here is something else. Towards the end of 2019, they laid off 3,000 workers in China and then close to 300 workers in the US. In San Jose, guys, these people made like $1 million each. Yeah, so, and do you think Neo wanted to lay those people off? I have a feeling that they care about their employees. The culture there is strong. If they put that thought into their Neo houses, they definitely think about the culture in the workspace. Now, they had to cut 3,300 people off. That's a big deal, guys. Like, another red flag, all right? All right, I'm going to read this last paragraph. Neo has said it is working on several financing projects, and there have been multiple rumors over the last year that it may get a lifeline from one of China's big state-owned automakers. But none of those have materialized. Instead, Neo continues to find itself in the unenviable position of trying to scale up an automotive business while simultaneously trying to raise the billions of dollars that such an operation requires. Those are two extremely difficult tasks on their own, and the coronavirus outbreak won't make accomplishing them any easier. Now, what the hell have I been saying on Stock Twits? Well, I've been ranting that living paycheck to paycheck is no way to live. Anything that goes wrong will disrupt everything. We're talking about late fees, defaulting, just a shit show. They already have a huge task on their hands. They don't even have their own factories. It's just the margins are low. They need the money to back it up. I think it's not going to go bankrupt, okay? It's just going to fall and retract because that's where it belongs. The numbers aren't there. Wall Street, that is basically a $1 company. A company that just continues to burn cash. It's not like they're wasting it. It's going into the business, branding, building. You need money to make money. You need to spend money to make money, especially for a consumer good. This right here was just speculation, rumors, a bubble. That's why it ramped up. Technicals. There's a lot of things that go into this, and I really don't think the coronavirus stopped it from going upwards. I really believe that the long-term resistance line just in itself was the reason why it got stopped out there. And the coronavirus is the cherry on top to start the snowball effect. And this one in January 27th. Neo rally stalls as coronavirus shifts sentiment. People want to blame the coronavirus, but it kept going up and stuff like that. It went to like $5 even though it was going on. It wasn't as bad. It's unclear what impact, if any, the virus will have on demand for NIO's electric vehicles. As you can see, the sentiment is unclear. No one's really sure. No one knows if it's affecting it. No one knows if it's diverging from the news of the coronavirus. Maybe it's just going down because of the sales numbers. But kind of like the perfect storm, like I said. Now, this is some really good production. The link is in the description if you guys want to watch it. We're going to watch it from 5 minutes going forward. It's really good stuff.
It's free of charge. Also interspersed throughout the report were music videos eulogizing good deeds under the guidance of the party. Western audiences might find it.
And we're going to speed it up for time's sake. We're going to do 1.5.
Ridiculous, but sadly, this has become a social norm in China whenever the government tries to deal with a public crisis. But is the propaganda effective? I asked the microbiologist and China expert Dr. Lin Xiaoxu. Do you think the Chinese government has been very effective in shaping public opinion?
I think actually the public opinion was heavily influenced, shaped by the Chinese government's propaganda tactic because to the Chinese government, it's very clear, even from Xi Jinping's directive, it's very clear the government put propaganda purpose on top of rescuing people. And Chinese government control all the media resources. So when people being quarantined down at home or in the hospitals, if all they watch just the government's official tune or the so-called positive energy, then more people will become delusional.
Coming up, social media tells a completely different story of Wuhan. The real death toll might be 8 to 10 times higher than the official number. While we do not attempt to undermine any efforts of the medical staff working on the front line, it is worth questioning what Chinese state-run media do not address and why. In fact, in contrast to China's official media, social media outside China that Chinese people have to circumvent the firewall to use depicts a very different picture. We selected the most credible ones with clear visuals that are self-explanatory. The Wuhan Hospital is one of 2 massive hospitals China has built to treat confirmed coronavirus patients with severe symptoms. According to China's official media, it is well-equipped and patient-friendly. But a construction worker's video reveals a different story, one that CCTV footage doesn't show. Each room has a tiny window for food delivery. Iron railings are installed on all windows. Doors can only be opened from the outside. People in the rooms cannot leave. The camera person proclaimed, "This is not a hospital. It is a concentration camp."
That was a concentration camp. If I've ever seen a concentration camp, that was a concentration camp.
Some hospitals are the massive quarantine centers in Wuhan. Patients there show grievous footage of the center.
这就是16个人，全部都睡在这个地方，根本就没有隔离。
Bro, that's what I was saying. You go in there with influenza or something, you go in there because you got the common cold with the fever, you got coronavirus now.
一个隔离间都没有，这么多人，你说要洗漱，要上厕所，到现在早餐也没有，医生也没有。
The Wuhan government released a notice about quarantining 4 types of people, which are people confirmed to have coronavirus, those suspected to have the virus, people with fevers who cannot be ruled out for having the virus, and those who have had close contact with people with confirmed cases. The way and the extent the Chinese authorities enforce the quarantine measures are appalling.
I would be scared shitless. I would be so sad. I speak Mandarin, and that lady is screaming, I don't want to go.
In some communities, local officials ordered the lockdown of infected people's homes. That is, to seal their doors and windows so they can't get out. Another type of video circulating on social media is footage of dead bodies in hospitals and dead bodies being taken away. The underlying question is, if we see death everywhere, does that mean the death toll might be much higher than we know?
3具尸体已经在这里躺了一个上午，有的人已经是凌晨死的，到现在没有人来处理。然后医生、护士还有病人全部都在这种环境下面工作。这就是定点医院的现状，没有任何人管。看到了，看到了。那个车里面，看到了，妈看到了。2个有一个红灯。
亲身经历啊，亲身经历，这么高的。
That guy better be sleeping. Yo, this guy died on the streets.
这么高啊！
刚才3个，现在我数一下啊，10袋，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，有8个。这么多就在死了，这是几天？就昨天是吧？哎呦，这死人这么多，这是病房吧？我记得他在往这搬尸体了，往这搬尸体。
So basically walks into the hospital.
完全死了，完了，完了，估计不上来了，已经没有生命特征了，没有生命特征了。这个又完了，这个完了，这个又完了呀，这个又完了一个。 用完那个他儿子啊，又快死了一个，他儿子已经喘不过气了，那个刚才3个，现在几分钟？5分钟了，现在已经8个了，又来了一个，来2个。怎么还有？你们还有尸体吗？还有啊，这么多！哎呦，这个有太多了呀，还在搬，这尸体还在搬。哎，8个尸体。
The most alarming evidence is a phone call Epic Media Group's undercover investigator made to one of the crematoriums in Wuhan on February 4th. The conversation shows a simple yet heart-wrenching fact. The math simply doesn't add up. The actual number of bodies being cremated doesn't match the government figure by a large margin. Here's the highlight of that phone call.
就是目前的工作量，你们现在感觉到怎么样？还可以完成，对吧？如果再增加，压力很大，压力很大，压力很大。领导，你要是听真话，还是听假话？你要当然要说实话了。我们那我就跟领导说，我现在我本人都要快崩溃了。哦，你想想看，为什么？我现在压力非常大。那为什么呢？你们现在的我上去重视这个问题，现在的重心放在医院这块。对，我们这块被人遗忘了。我们现在每天的运气量和火化量是平时。
4 to 5 times. This goes on for a little bit, but basically they're saying that they're understaffed. They've got ovens breaking down that are unrepairable due to being operated 24/7, 4 to 5 times more. And they can't take any more bodies, but the bodies keep piling up.
131 people are expected to die in Wuhan every day. Wuhan has 7 funeral homes, and they can cremate 135 bodies daily on average. Based on this information, Zooming In did a preliminary calculation. We concluded that since January 25th, 2020, when the funeral workers said the number of bodies arriving at the funeral home started to rise, roughly 470 people died of coronavirus every day in Wuhan. From January 25th to February 12th, over 8,000 people could have died from the disease in the city. On February 12th, the Epoch Times reported that funeral service teams from multiple provinces were going to Wuhan to help transport and cremate corpses. These teams held ceremonies before leaving, where they held up banners that indicated where they were from and where their mission was in Wuhan. At the Center for Disease Control and Prevention press briefing at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. on February 11th, I asked the CDC Principal Deputy Director, Dr. Ann Shackett, these questions. Simon Gao with Zooming In and NTD TV. Some of the people have already touched upon this, but I just want to dig a little deeper. So when CDC make assessment of the epidemic, does it take into consideration that the official number from the Chinese CDC might still be very severely underestimated? Because, for example, the Chinese medical officials admitted that medical personnel admitted that the diagnostic kits they need to use to test the patients are very limited, only 10% of what they actually needed. And also, we did an interview with one of the funeral homes in Wuhan City two days ago, and they said they have been absolutely overwhelmed, and they've been basically working 24/7, and 60% of the bodies they cremate are actually from home, 30% from hospitals. Obviously, those 60% of the bodies are not counted in the official number. So that's one question. Is it still very, very severely underestimated? And question number 2 is regarding the quarantine center in China. We know China has this policy right now. If you have a symptom, it doesn't matter if you get a flu or anything else, or coronavirus, you are forced to those quarantine centers. We have seen footages of this Fangtang quarantine center with 1,000 beds, like very close to each other. So my question is whether those will actually increase the possibility of cross-infection, or is it an effective way to control the spread of the epidemic? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Those are both really, really important questions. We absolutely assume that the reported cases are an underestimate. The early exportation of virus to a number of countries was used by mathematical modelers to estimate what the total cases must be. If we knew of 41 cases, but this many countries were seeing cases imported among travelers using the known numbers that travel, there were some estimates of under-reporting. And, it's a mix of not hiding cases, but really trying to keep up either with the mild cases, or as you say, now that the disease is so common that the laboratory capacity can't keep up, or the kits aren't, there's not available kits. So we absolutely assume there's a much greater number of cases. And China's actually reporting what they call suspected cases, ones that haven't yet been tested. And then that's typically, how we assess outbreaks and emerging infections. Your question about the quarantine center, theoretically a quarantine center should be people who have no symptoms, who are being observed to see, because you think they're higher risk than others because they've been exposed, you want to observe them, and at the first sign of symptoms you want to move them out of exposure to anyone else so that they can be isolated. The concern about putting people who may be ill together could be a problem.